Hello, happy Friday, everyone. I am so happy to have Kimberly here with me. And this is actually my first time ever going live on TikTok. So, to everyone joining us from TikTok, welcome, welcome. Now, Kim, where are you joining us from?
Oh, there we go. I'm unmuted now. I'm actually about 30 minutes outside of DC in a place called Crofton, Maryland. It's kind of like a small town, but I'm originally from Washington, DC. So I was born and raised in the city.
Oh, born and raised in the city. Okay, okay. I am in Atlanta. So how are people feeling in DC, or how are you feeling in DC after this election cycle and results? How what's the feel? Because today we are talking about limiting beliefs. And let me just back up. Let me introduce you the way that you deserve to be introduced. Okay. So, Kimberly is a certified life coach and a powerful force behind the I Am the Whole Woman. Her work is all about guiding women towards living a life rooted in peace and purpose and self mastery. She created a sacred space for women so that they can connect, they can heal, and they can embrace the beauty of their wholeness. And today we're diving deep into breaking free of limiting beliefs. And I specifically chose this topic because I believe that limiting beliefs have really generationally held people back. And so it's an honor for you to be here. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was quite an introduction. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for seeing me and recognizing and appreciating what I have to say and the way that I have to say it. So thank you for having me.
And I'm all about transparency. And so I don't shy away from topics that are hard, and I believe in order for us to really grow, we do share a bit of our own testimony. And I had limiting beliefs that I had to recognize, that I had to be ready to face and challenge, and mine were based around money. So money felt sacred, and when I grew up, it seemed like something that was always scarce. And so I had the mindset that I had to hold on to money with a clenched fist. And so being frugal, having this belief that money is limited, really influenced my decisions, and created fear. And it wasn't until I went into therapy and really started to recognize these limiting beliefs that I actually overcame and was able to, jump out and start my private practice. Because of course, when you work for an institution, then you have this idea that you are safe, that you are secure. And so I see some similar patterns in therapy. Like some people have limiting beliefs around self-worth. Some people believe they're not deserving of success. Some people believe that they are not worthy of love. And so I would really love to just start out by hearing a little bit about um what pulled you towards this type of work
Mhm.
with women, and then specifically with limiting beliefs.
Ah, such a great question. So I totally resonate with everything you said, especially around the limiting beliefs as far as money goes. But my biggest would probably be something that you've heard in therapy is around like worth. Truly, it's around worth and is what I have to say valuable?
Mhm.
Is my message worth sharing? Is somebody going to be touched by it? And I think that as you overcome one set of beliefs, limiting beliefs, there goes another, right?
Mm,
Because every time that you're ascending to a new level, as you're arising into this whole woman that you aspire to be, there are going to be things that challenge you that are not meant to break you, but to make you into that woman that you're working towards.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
for me, it was really about accepting my worth and knowing that I do have a voice and my
Mhm.
voice is worthy of being heard.
Mhm.
And honestly, that is still something that has to be practiced on a
Mhm.
day in and day out basis, especially because I do live with bipolar 2.
Oh, okay.
So that
Okay.
is a diagnosis that I've had for the past 18 years. So over that span of time, I've really had to learn how to train my brain.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
everything that I talk about is absolutely what I've been through and what I will probably continue to go through and grow through just because of the brain chemistry, right? But the thing is, I've gotten better.
Mhm.
I've gotten better at recognizing when those limiting beliefs are starting to affect my ability to move forward, or
Mhm.
when those limiting beliefs are affecting my mental health just to get up out of the bed. you
Tell
know,
people a little bit about bipolar because it's thrown around in a derogatory way. And so, can you tell people a little bit about what the medical diagnosis is for bipolar?
ooh, child, this was so many years of research. And I will say to anyone who does have this diagnosis, the best thing you can do is to learn about it and then learn about yourself as you relate to it. Now, with bipolar, there are a few different kinds, and I just so happen to have bipolar 2, which is associated with lower states of depression and hypomanic. So, not quite as elevated of a mood, but elevated enough to throw off your baseline,
Mhm.
essentially. And so there is this push and pull between happiness and excitedness and sadness and melancholiness. And there is a whole gamut of emotions that people with my specific diagnosis. I can't speak to bipolar 1. I can't speak to schizoaffective disorder. I can't speak to that. But with the bipolar 2, there are a gamut of emotions that
Mhm.
run. There are lots of different symptoms that express themselves in different ways based on the individual experiencing them. And then, like you said, I really champion self mastery, and I think that that is a perfect place to focus because you may not be able to change this label, but you can change how you associate with it
Mhm.
and not be defined by it. And
Mhm.
you can change how you operate so that this is something that you have. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
And it's something that you have, but it doesn't have to have you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's taking the
Yeah.
time. That's a process.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been 18 years. So I'm on a different part of my journey. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that the beginning is understanding your story and realizing that you have a voice and that your story is worth being told. Right? Why do you think, and I have my own theories, why do you think that people minimize their experience or minimize their talents or their gifts? I think that sometimes people feel like that maybe from childhood, um, sit down, shut up, you're to be seen, not heard, or, you feeling like what you have to offer is just not enough or not, or you're comparing yourself to other people. Why do you encourage people to identify their story and find their voice? Why is that important to you?
It's actually important to me because there are so many voices out here right now
Mhm.
that if you allow so many different opinions and perspectives and ways of thinking and ways of being to penetrate your psyche,
Mhm.
then you are much more prone to question yourself. You're much more prone to shrink. You're much more prone to do these types of things. And I'm speaking because I have experienced that. Okay. And that is not something that I am exempt from.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
think, the biggest thing is that everybody has something to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And just because everybody has something to say doesn't mean that, you what you have to say is not important.
Right.
Because I think that sometimes we compare ourselves to other people and we think that, oh, what they're saying is more important than what I have to say. So we're going to get into some examples of limiting beliefs, right? But just in case somebody is here and they're like, well, like, I think that I have limiting beliefs, but what are they? So, self-worth and success. People who believe that they're not deserving of success or stability or self-sabotage or undervalue their achievements. Is this one that you've seen in your work? And what comes to mind when you think of it?
Oh, wow. So the first thing that came to mind immediately was when I was running my group coaching program.
Mhm.
And in that program, the ladies were essentially checking in every week. And they were tasked with rating themselves.
Mhm.
They were tasked with rating themselves. And at the end of our time together, we looked at the results together. And all of them said that that's not actually how they felt, or like
Mm.
coming through it and getting to the end, looking back, they underrated themselves
Mm. Mhm.
because their results didn't match the way that they rated themselves. They had paradigm shifts. They had, losing weight. They had all of these different successes. They drank their water. They minded their business. Okay. They had all of these different successes and
Mhm.
they undercounted themselves.
Yeah.
And inside of community, when people are celebrating wins, they don't even know what is considered a win. They think that it has to be something grandiose when the reality is it is the small micro wins that really create macro shifts and changes in your life. And so I think that's what is important to me, is to emphasize that every win deserves to be celebrated.
Yeah. In the therapeutic realm, we call it a distortion or a delusion, right?
Mhm.
So there are negative thinking traps that we get into. And one of them is minimizing your accomplishments and magnetizing your failures or what you deem as a failure, right? So, for example, um you get a congratulations at work, right? You did something, you knocked it out of the park, and people are like, congratulations, you did a good job, thank you for handling that. And you think to yourself, that was nothing, that's not a big deal, but what about the X, Y, and Z that I didn't do last month, right? Or going back to what you said with body image, right? So you have this idea that you want to look like Meg Stallion, right? And
Hello?
so you might be missing an opportunity to celebrate the fact that 3 days this week you got up, you went for a walk, you went to the gym, you drank your water, you've been meal prepping, you stayed away from excessive, like all of those things, which are really great, you're minimizing because you haven't got to the goal.
Mm.
Right. So it's a cognitive distortion that we are taught to, again, and as an African American woman, taught that you have to be the best, taught that you have to be the brightest in order to be worthwhile or for success. Okay. Another one is love and perfection. There's a belief among some people that they're only lovable if they're perfect. And I feel that that keeps people in unhealthy relationships, right? So all of us are always a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. There's no one who has gotten to a place where they are perfect, but believing that you are only lovable if you're perfect, or having come out of relationships where someone has tore you down or pointed out every flaw that you have. And so now you feel that you're unlovable. What are your thoughts on this one?
This one is absolutely something that has kind of plagued my life. Not plagued it, right? It's not like a disease, but it's a familiar scenario for me.
Mm,
Let's put it like that. And what has been my remedy for that is one, self awareness, right?
mm-hmm,
But the awareness of my values, not just awareness of what I don't want,
mm-hmm,
but the awareness of what I do want. And then the next way that I've navigated that is through radical responsibility,
mm,
because no one can make you feel anyway. They can do something that triggers this emotion, and you choose to associate that meaning with that, and it spirals, right? So nobody can actually make you feel or do anything. So when we take radical responsibility for our experience, it goes from I am unlovable, I am hard to love, to maybe you're just not the person to love me.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that comes with that self-awareness and that radical responsibility to take your own experience into your hands and
mm-hmm.
make it what you want. But that takes knowing what those limiting beliefs are and allowing yourself to sit with that, and don't try to rush through that and hurry up to the other side of that. There is work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's about knowing whether that work is to be done individually or as a unit.
Yeah.
And sometimes it needs to be separate, sometimes it needs to be together. But I think knowing yourself, knowing your values, and taking radical responsibility for what you allow in your vortex is how you move through feeling unlovable.
It's so true. We have some, hey Trish. And then we have a couple of people who are commenting.
Oh,
And
yes.
I love it. We
Hey,
welcome
guys.
you. Yes. So Trish said, I believe that all of this has to do with low self-esteem. It's important to find out what causes this emotion. This is why it's important to tell yourself positive affirmations. And I think that going backwards is so important. Right. I think we talked about that in the beginning, understanding your story and your experience.
Mhm,
And even if it stems all the way back to childhood, because I do think that some of it is environment, the environment that you're raised in.
mhm,
I think some of it is biological, but and everyone's glass is filled at a different level, right? And so if you realize that when we're talking about self-esteem, if you realize that you're running off of E, maybe it was never filled at all. No one ever encouraged you or told you that you were beautiful or told you that you could do things or that you could accomplish. And so it's just always been at E. Or maybe you were born as a little butterfly and somebody intentionally dimmed that light. We're all at different levels. So realizing where you are, and like you said, radical acceptance, don't fight it, right? This is where you are. I believe that there is the difference between wishing things were different and accepting reality for what they are. Could be a good definition for radical acceptance, right?
mhm,
Like, this is where you are now. What work do I need to do? And for some people, it's affirmations, right? So I've started getting up in the morning and putting on positive, spiritual Christian affirmations, so
mhm,
I can be reminded who I am and whose I am. So
mhm,
for some people, that's enough. For other people, it's coaching, right?
mhm,
Some people need that, that accountability and that person telling you and seeing things in you that you may not see. And for some people, it's in-depth therapy, right? Going back to unlearn some of those or face that childhood trauma. So thank you so much for that, Trish. Um, Micah said, I'm guilty of this people pleasing, which always leaves me drained and feeling unworthy when I'm rejected. like people pleasing is a whole topic in itself,
A
right?
whole thing in itself. And I'm actually collaborating with one of my friends on who's a holistic therapist herself, and we are doing a mental health check-in. And essentially, that is what my portion is about: is
Mhm.
knowing your limits and recognizing where your energy is leaking, so that
Mhm.
you can plug those holes and stop giving from an empty cup, but from your overflow.
Mhm. Mhm. I think that it's so important that you're doing that. I wanna say that if you're struggling with people pleasing, I want you to realize that you're trying to get people to accept you and validate you. You're trying to get people to see your worth. You are like Kim said, pouring out from a cup and many times an empty cup. And then when you're rejected, then you feel like you've poured all of this time and energy into this person or these people, and they are not appreciative or reciprocating back to you what you've poured out.
Mhm.
Okay, another one is the mindset that life has to be hard or everything is going to um you're striving from a place of um struggle,
Mhm.
right? Like this struggle, things are going to be hard, everyone is against me, there's no way out. And I think that it's important to mention right now in the light of the election that a lot of people are really struggling with this, right? That everything is about to get hard and there's gloom or there's doom, and realizing that it's all about mindset. But I want to give you the floor to talk a little bit about mindset.
Let's dive into it. Okay, let's dive into it. Huh. First of all, you don't have to struggle. Struggle is a choice. Challenges are inevitable, but struggling is a choice. And for quite some time, and I mean fairly recently, I have been not struggling, but in a struggle. Okay. And I hired my own life coach. So, for anyone out there, do you need therapy? Yes. Do you need a coach? Yes. You need guidance and direction in any area of your life that you want to be successful. So, find somebody who can give you a shortcut. Uh, I digress. But back to the mindset, you don't have to do anything, but know that it gets to be easy
Mhm,
because you choose to. And
mhm,
that was a mantra that I adopted after being with my own life coach, is that it gets to be easy because my life has been relatively hard,
mhm,
and not externally hard. It's not like I've struggled or was destitute or anything like that, but internally, my life has been very challenging.
mhm,
And today I choose not to engage in the struggle. Today, I choose to allow, to surrender to what is, and feed my soul, my spirit, what it needs to come back into harmony.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so, as far as the climate goes with this election, totally understand they put the idea of panic. Again, radical responsibility. The only thing that we can control is ourselves.
mhm.
And so, what can you do in this moment to bring yourself peace, to
Yeah.
bring yourself prosperity? What do you need to do to create a better economy for yourself?
Mhm,
What do you need to do to create a safer community for yourself? Start with yourself.
mhm,
And from there, you learn the skills, right? Because life is about skills, and the difference between where you are and where you're trying to be is a gap in some type of skill most of the time. So when you figure out the skills that you need to navigate whatever climate you're in, when your inner world is so sovereign and so solid, the outer world will not rub you so deeply.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Now, that's a goal, that a space that we'll never completely reach, because when you're that enlightened, you might as well be dead. So keep striving, not trying, because people that try never do, but keep working towards creating that reality for yourself, because you have the capacity and the power to do that.
Agree. Powerful, powerful, powerful. When you said the goal is no matter what is going on outside, that you have this internal peace, this internal knowing that everything is going to be okay. We got some comments from Instagram. I don't know if this was asked, but is it possible for someone with that mindset, can they learn the other person's love language?
If they choose to. If they choose to, they sure can.
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
choice. It's
yeah,
a choice.
it's a choice. It is absolutely a decision. It's a decision. Now, there may be a different plan to execute that, right? So maybe it's not super direct. Maybe you don't go, maybe that person's not willing to go to therapy, but maybe they're willing to listen to a podcast. So the plan might change, but the decision to learn somebody else's love language is completely their own. And you don't have to perform for them to do it. You
Correct.
don't have to jump into people pleasing mode and shapeshift and silence yourself for them to do it. Because if they want to do it, they will.
Agree.
They,
Agree.
not that they will, but they
They'll
will
at least make
do
the
what they have
decision.
to do to figure out how.
They'll at least make the decision,
Yeah,
right?
they
Like
make a decision.
that's the first step of change, is understanding that there's a problem and making a decision to do something different.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So there are some takeaways. There are definitely some takeaways. First and foremost, you have to identify what limiting beliefs you're operating in. Because if you keep reverting back to, this is just the way I've always been, this is just the things, this is the way that I've been taught, then you're going to stay stuck, right? After you identify your limiting beliefs, you need to start reframing some of those thoughts, right? That's what we've been talking about today,
Mm,
right? Reframing the thoughts, like catching yourself when you are reverting back to the limited mindset, right?
mhm,
And embrace new possibilities. What choice are you making today that is just going to help you pivot? Whether that's, like you said, Kim, a podcast, whether that's reaching out to someone, whether that's coaching or therapy or a friend group or whatever, or church or whatever it is. It's like, what am I going to do different? I can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same results. Kim, take us out with talking to us a little bit about self mastery, what that means to you, and then tell people where they can find you.
ooh, wee. I think self mastery is the process of knowing yourself, accepting yourself, having the ability to observe yourself, and to make a change to become a better version of yourself. Self mastery is all about self,
Mm-hmm.
and not controlling that self, but learning how to work with all of the different aspects of yourself that make you you, so that you can have an optimal life experience, which is
Mm-hmm.
what whole means, is to be a woman having an optimal life experience. And optimal does not mean perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Optimal means that you have accepted where you've been, you are working steadfast into where you are, and you haven't lost sight of the vision for where you're going.
I love that.
Not at all. And
I
that
love
is
that.
how I would say get into self mastery, because when we can master ourselves, when we become whole, that is when the rest of the world can think about experience some type of oneness.
Mm-hmm.
We got to be whole. There needs to be wholeness for there to be some type of oneness,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's in your interpersonal relationships, your communities, your government, all of those things. When we have our own sense of wholeness, when people are not nitpicking and in disliking you because of your race or because of your gender and
Mm-hmm.
all of those things, when we can get past that and everybody is good with themselves, the world will be good with each other.
Agree. I completely agree. So where can people find you?
You can find me on every single platform there is. Instagram, well, that's not completely true. I have a TikTok, but I don't really post there. I probably am slipping. But Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, it's all Kimberly Whitmon, Whitmon, not an A, but an O.
Okay. Thank you so very much for gracing us with your presence today. I really hope that this has resonated with you. This is a topic that we could honestly go hours and hours and hours, because limiting beliefs is what, keeps us stuck. And if you have a testimony, or if you're in the helping community and you want to be on this platform, please feel free to reach out to me. I believe that we all have something powerful to share. And if it's not from me, someone has what you need. Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Peace, everyone.